Hi, welcome back to this channel. Should you not listen to the Chapter 5, Part 5, I would suggest you to listen to it first. You can find the video in my playlist. Without further ado, shall we start? Let's enjoy yourself with the book, A Study of History by Arnold J. Toynbee. Chapter 5, Part 6, Standardization through Disintegration. We have now arrived at the close of our inquiry into the process of the disintegrations of civilizations. But before we leave the subject, there is one more question to be considered. We must ask whether, as we look back over the ground we have traversed, we can discern any master tendency at work, and we do in fact unmistakably descry a tendency towards standardization and uniformity. A tendency which is the correlative and opposite of the tendency towards differentiation and diversity which we have found to be the mark of the growth stage of civilizations. We have recently noted, on a superficial plane, the tendency towards a uniformity of 3.5 beats in the rhythm of disintegration. A much more significant symptom of uniformity is the uniform schism of a disintegrating society into 3 sharply divided classes and the uniform works of creation performed by each of them. We have seen dominant minorities uniformly working out philosophies and producing universal states. Internal proletariats uniformly discovering higher religions which aim at embodying themselves in universal churches, and external proletariats uniformly mustering war bands which find vent in heroic ages. The uniformity with which these several institutions are generated is indeed so far-reaching that we are able to present this aspect of the disintegration process in the tabular form in which it is displayed at the conclusion of this chapter. Even more remarkable is the uniformity of ways of behavior, feeling and life that is revealed by the study of schism in the soul. This contrast between the diversity of growth and the uniformity of disintegration is what we might have expected from the consideration of simple analogies, such as the parable of Penelope's web. When the faithful wife of the absent Odysseus had promised her importunate suitors that she would give herself in marriage to one of them so soon as she had finished weaving a winding sheet for old Letts, she used to weave away at her loom in the daytime day by day and then spend the night watches night by night in unpicking her last day's work. When the webster set up her warp and began to weave her weft each morning, she had at her command an unlimited choice of patterns, and might, if she chose, weave a different pattern every day. But her night work was monotonously uniform, for, when it came to unraveling the web, the pattern made no difference. However complicated the set of movements employed during the day, the night task could be no other than the simple movement of drawing out the threads. For this inevitable monotony of her night work Penelope is assuredly to be pitied. If its dullness had led nowhere, the drudgery would have been unbearable. What inspired her was a song in her soul: "With him will I be reunited." She was living and working in hope, and her hope was not disappointed. The hero returned to find the heroine still his, and the Odyssey ends with their reunion. If then, as it turns out, even Penelope has not drawn her threads in vain, what of the mightier weaver whose work is our study, and whose song finds human expression in the verse of Goethe? In currents of life, in tempests of motion, in fervor of act, in the fire, in the storm, hither and thither, over and under, wend I and wander. Birth and the grave, limitless ocean, where the restless wave undulates ever, under and over their seething strife heaving and weaving the changes of life. At the whirring loom of time, unawed I work the living mantle of God. The work of the spirit of the earth, as he weaves and draws his threads on the loom of time, is the temporal history of man as this manifests itself in the genesis and growths and breakdowns and disintegrations of human societies. And in all this welter of life and tempest of action we can hear the beat of an elemental rhythm whose variations we have learnt to know as challenge and response, withdrawal and return, rout and rally, apparentation and affiliation, schism and palingenesia. This elemental rhythm is the alternating beat of yin and yang. And in listening to it we have recognized that, though strophe may be answered by antistrophe, victory by defeat, creation by destruction, birth by death, the movement that this rhythm beats out is neither the fluctuation of an indecisive battle nor the cycle of a treadmill. The perpetual turning of a wheel is not a vain repetition if, at each revolution, it is carrying the vehicle that much nearer to its goal. And, if palingenesia signifies the birth of something new and not just the rebirth of something that has lived and died before, then the wheel of existence is not just a devilish engine for inflicting everlasting torment on a damned iction. On this showing the music that the rhythm of yin and yang beats out is the song of creation, and we shall not be misled into fancying ourselves mistaken because, as we give ear, we can catch the note of creation alternating with the note of destruction. So far from convicting the song of being a diabolic counterfeit, this duality of note is a warrant of authenticity. If we listen well, we shall perceive that, when the two notes collide, they produce not a discord but a harmony. Creation would not be creative if it did not swallow up all things in itself, including its own opposite. But what of the living garment that the earth spirit weaves? Is it laid up in heaven as fast as it is woven? Or can we, here on earth, catch glimpses at any rate of patches of its ethereal web? What are we to think of those tissues that lie at the foot of the loom when the weaver has been at work unraveling? In the disintegration of a civilization we have found that, though the pageant may have been insubstantial, it does not fade without leaving a rack behind. When civilizations pass into dissolution, they regularly leave behind them a deposit of universal states and universal churches and barbarian warbands. What are we to make of these objects? Are they mere waste products, or will these debris prove, if we pick them up, to be fresh masterpieces of the weaver's art which he has woven, by an unnoticed sleight of hand, on some more ethereal instrument than the roaring loom that has been apparently occupying all his attention? If, with this new question in mind, we cast our thoughts back over the results of our previous inquiries, we shall find reason to believe that these objects of study are something more than byproducts of a social disintegration. For we came across them first as tokens of apparentation and affiliation, and this is a relation between one civilization and another. Evidently, these three institutions cannot be entirely explained in terms of the history of any single civilization. Their existence involves a relation between one civilization and another, and in virtue of this they claim study as independent entities. But how far does their independence carry them? In dealing with universal states, we have found already that the peace which they bring is as ephemeral as it is imposing. And in dealing with barbarian warbands, we have found again that these maggots in the carcass of a dead civilization cannot hope to live longer than it takes the putrefying corpse to dissolve into its clean elements. Yet, though the warbands may be doomed to the premature death of Achilles, the barbarian's short life leaves at least an echo behind it in the epic poetry that commemorates an heroic age. And what is the destiny of the universal church in which every higher religion seeks to embody itself? It will be seen that we are not in a position at present to answer our new question offhand, and it is clear that we cannot afford to ignore it, for this question holds the key to the meaning of the weaver's work. Our study is not yet at an end, but we have arrived at the verge of the last of our fields of inquiry. End of Chapter 5, Part 6. Should you want to continue to the last chapter, Argument, please proceed to the next video. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this book. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more. Thank you.